I'm passionate about. Um, Overcoming the insecurity around Social Security. Today, our goal is to help you get more comfortable with how Social Security works. We're going to talk about the reform items that are on the table. So we'll talk about how Social Security works today and how that could change far into the future. Then we're going to touch on the most common questions we get, which is around what is a spousal benefit? How does that work? What happens if I pass away and I'm young? Will my husband, will my wife get anything? Then we're going to talk about some unique scenarios, such as in the case of you being divorced. So let's dive right in. There's a lot to cover. But the first thing I want to talk about is the history of Social Security. It's been around for a really long time, but you might have been reading some news articles that say Social Security Trust Fund is going away. We have 10 years before Social Security becomes insolvent. And what that means is back in 1983, this was actually the last time we had major reform for the Social Security system. We had a couple things that happened along the way, minor, but major reform, it's been since the 80s. So we are due to do a couple more things to keep Social Security going far into the future. But this Social Security Trust Fund that you read about, that, is scheduled to run out of money come 2035. This report gets published once a year. What they're talking about only funds 20% of our benefits. So, worst case scenario, hey, it's doomsday. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to even think about Social Security and reform items. Everyone's benefits would be cut by 20%. But this is one thing that all politicians agree on. We're not going to let that happen, not under my watch. There's a lot left for us to do. So, how is Social Security working today? 80% of Social Security benefits getting paid out is coming from our payroll taxes. So, they call this FICA taxes. When you look at your paycheck, if you're still employed, you're going to see a line item that says OASDI, Old Age Survivors Disability Insurance. This is what you pay in to Social Security. 6.2% gets paid in from the employer, 6.2% gets paid in from you, the employee, up to a maximum wage base of $168,600. What this means, once you make that $168,600 in 2024, you will stop paying into Social Security. You'll notice you get a paycheck increase, more money getting thrown into your checking account. The reason why I'm explaining this is a major reform item. We could do a couple things here. Instead of 6.2%, it's been set at that rate for many, many years. We could just increase that easily. Hey, 7.2%. So raise taxes, really easy move. The other thing they could do is uncap the max wage base. This is something that you'll probably hear a little bit more about when they do the presidential debates. The last one they did, this came up as a discussion topic. Hey, let's uncap that. For Medicare, we don't have a max wage base. If you make $1 million, you pay the 1.45% on the full million. And if you're a high earner, you pay in a little bit more. So let's do the same thing with Social Security. Uncap that. But the way that they talk about it is they're not going to simply say uncap the max wage base. There's a lot of discussions around tiering this. So, if you make over 400,000, maybe you pay in 3%. So lots of iterations that could go on here on the tax side of things. So I always say to people that are concerned, hey, I feel like I might not get Social Security, and there's somebody in their 60s getting close to claiming decisions. I say, do you think that the politicians will not do anything with raising taxes at all, and they'll just let everyone's benefits get cut by 20%, including the poor people that are living paycheck to paycheck? And typically everybody's answer is, probably they would just raise taxes. So that's just one lever they have to pull. Now, To qualify to get a Social Security benefit, as long as you have paid in for 10 years, they work in a credit system, but really for most people, 10 years of work, you will get a Social Security benefit. They base your benefit on your 35 highest earnings years. You don't have to work 35 years, but that's what they're going to use to come up with your monthly benefit check. If you, let's say you work 30 years, they're going to take 5 years, put in zeros for those years that you didn't pay in, and that will bring down your average over those 35 years. So this is another reform item. Let's increase this to 38 years. Not a lot of people work for 38 years, so we could bring down some of those averages on which your monthly benefit check is based on. I'm listing here somebody that has paid in for 35 years at the max wage base every year. This is the most anybody's getting out of the system in 2024. Now, these two terms, full retirement age and primary insurance amount, are really important because you'll notice throughout this whole presentation, we're going to be talking about these two things. It really matters. So I want you to look at the chart on the right-hand side, and you're going to find your year of birth. That is corresponding with a full retirement age. So if you were born in 1962, your full retirement age is 67. This is the age at which the Social Security Administration says, this is when we expect you to retire. We're going to call this your retirement age, where you get to keep your full benefit amount. And the amount that you would get at your full retirement age is called your primary insurance amount. Now, we talked about the third, oh, and I forgot to mention, because this one's in the news all the time, reform item, raise the full retirement age. A lot of people are concerned about this that are in their 60s. You shouldn't be concerned unless you're younger. So if they were to raise the full retirement age, most likely it's going to affect the younger Americans. Maybe it'll be if you were born in 1980 or later, your full retirement age will be 68. Like, tie full retirement age to longevity. People are living longer. Now, the 35 years that you've paid into the system, we know that back in the 80s when you made $30,000, that's worth a lot more today. So what we're going to do is we're going to index up your 35 years for inflation. They're looking at wage inflation, and they're giving you that amount. Then once you turn age 62, you are going to get the cost of living increases that they announce each year. You do not need to file and claim to start receiving your benefits to get the cost of living adjustment. It will be reflected in your primary insurance amount each year. So 62 is when you start getting this, and you'll get them moving forward. Another reform item, let's means test cost of living increases. So I just talked about once you're 62, you're going to get it if you claimed or didn't claim. They could at some point decide to draw a line in the sand with your income, just like they do for Medicare, and say, hey, if you make $150,000 or more, you will not get a cost of living increase moving forward. So we don't know where they'll draw that line in the sand for your income, but we can see how they do this for Medicare. They could means test this, that you wouldn't get the increase if your income was above a certain level. So another thing they could do in the next 10 years. Now, after we have your 35 highest earnings years, we've indexed it up for inflation, and we've broken that down to a monthly number that they call your average indexed monthly earnings, or AIM. This step is all about income replacement. They break your monthly average index monthly earnings into 3 tiers. The low earners, we want to give them more income replacement. So the first 1,174, you're getting 90% income replacement. The next tier, 32. The next tier, 15. So this isn't something you really need to know, but I have it in here because this is also a reform item. Let's add another bend point that maybe is 5%. Let's take that 15% and maybe make that 5%. So if we uncap the max wage base that we talked about earlier, most likely they would couple it with, okay, and let's add another bend point, limit what you can get out of the system. So those two kind of pair together as reform items. So what age can you start taking your Social Security benefits? You are allowed to start taking benefits at age 62. And if you take at age 62, you are not your full retirement age. So you will have a 30% reduction. And that's locked in for life. This is something that they're leaving on the table. Not a lot of press about, oh, let's raise this and say you can't take benefits at age 62. And why would they not really be talking about taking this off the table? Well, with people living longer, a lot of people taking at 62 with that reduction are getting less lifetime dollars. So the government can actually make out a little bit if you take at age 62, but there are reasons that people would want to do this. This is all about how long are we going to live? Some people, they're coming up to retirement. They need their Social Security to meet their goals, to meet their living expenses, and they really need to retire early. Yes, they might want to turn it on. Also, there are people that they find out, hey, I have Parkinson's. I'm not going to make it more than 10 years. Yet some people are going to take early because of health conditions, low life expectancy. Also, if you have a spouse, this makes this more fun and interesting when your advisor sits down and helps you with your claiming decisions. The reason being, let's say you have a much younger spouse that's 10 years younger than you. A lot of times, if the high earner is the person that's older, yeah, the lower earning spouse is going to take it 62 because they're going to end up with a survivor benefit at the end of the day. So, lots of reasons you might consider taking early. Your financial advisor will ask you a lot of questions because they're trying to determine if it makes sense for you. There's no right or wrong answers here with Social Security, and your financial advisor is just making sure you don't make any mistakes. Because for every single month that you can wait past age 62 to take your benefits, you will get more and more and more. You don't have to go a full year every month. Your benefit's going to be growing. The example I have here is somebody that at age 67, that's their full retirement age, and their benefit amount would be $3,000. I am not including cost of living adjustments here, which really make a difference because the cost of living increase on a bigger number is a bigger number, but I'm being conservative here with a 0% cost of living increase. You can see both of these charts are saying the same thing. The one on the right-hand side is saying the percentage of your primary insurance amount you get to keep at different claiming ages. So at age 67, you would get $3,000. If you take at age 62, you get to keep 70% of that. So a 30% reduction, so you get $2,100 at age 62. Once you turn full retirement age, you don't have any reductions. You get to keep 100%. But here's where the fun starts. You get an 8% increase for every single year past your full retirement age up until age 70. So you can really maximize that lifelong payment over time by waiting until age 70. Once you're age 70, you cap out. It's not going to grow past that. So you are going to take at age 70. Another thing I want to note here, once you turn full retirement age, the Social Security Administration allows you to retroactively claim benefits. So let's say you're not sure if you want to wait until age 70. You're like, yeah, I don't really need the money. You can wait 6 months. So let's say you turn 67, now you're 67 and a half. You can say, hey, Social Security Administration, let's pretend I claimed at age 67. I want to lock in that $3,000 payment. And please send me my lump sum check for the last 6 months. So they're going to send you a check for $18,000. The reason why I'm pointing this out is this year, Social Security has been offering this as an option to people that are older than full retirement age. And it's confusing to some people where they say, do you want that 3,720 or do you want that payment of 3,600 with this big lump sum check? So the reason why is they're trying to give you the alternative. Do you want to take the lower monthly payment and we'll pay you back for the last 6 months? So this is all about lifespan, your longevity. We don't know when you're going to die, but we do have to have some assumptions. So if you are sitting down with your financial advisor and your objective is, I want to maximize, I want to have the most lifetime dollars that I can squeeze out of the system, then they're going to have to put, okay, when did your parents die? Let's think about your health condition because we have to put in a number. Hey, I expect to live till 85. She expects to live until 90. And that's how we're going to optimize for you and figure this out. Your advisor can run multiple scenarios. Oh, let's say we both live till 90. We both live until 100. We just know that people are living longer, and the chances, if you're married, one of the two of you is going to live until your 90s is pretty high these days. Another thing your advisor can do for you is calculate a break even age. And this is the age that if you lived past this age, by you waiting, every check that you get after that age is profitable. You're getting profit at that point. We know these three people were born on the same day and they have exactly the same benefit amount. Mike decides, I want to take early because I don't want to wait that extra 5 years. I'm going to collect $126,000 before Deb even turns on her benefits. And you look, you're like, that seems like a lot of money, $126,000 to collect. But when we look and we say, okay, how long does Deb have to live for this to become profitable? And Deb, not accounting for any cost of living increases here, as long as she lives past age 77, every single check after that point is going to be profitable. She gets an extra $900 a month. So you can look and say, okay, what happens if Pat, she decides to wait till 70 and really maximize? How long would Pat have to live to make this worth it? And for her, as long as she lives past age 79, every check is going to be very profitable after that point. So your financial advisor can run different break-even ages for you to let you know for your unique benefit amount when that age will be. So you might be thinking, okay, I still want to take at age 62. I want to take earlier than my full retirement age. Well, one thing that you really have to consider and know, the Social Security Administration doesn't want people to be still working and claiming Social Security benefits. So what they do is they put a limit to how much you can have in employment earnings if you are not full retirement age. So looking at this chart for 2024, these do get inflation adjusted each year, but this year you are allowed to have $22,320 in employment earnings if you are under your full retirement age. They give you a little bit more in the year that you turn full retirement age, and then after your full retirement age, you are allowed to make as much as you want in employment earnings. My father, he is in his 70s. He's collecting Social Security and working full time. It's not a problem. Now, I want to stress this is only employment earnings. So this isn't you getting money out of your IRA, your investment earnings. Oh, I have dividends, interest, capital gains. None of that. Think of it as what you are paying in those FICA taxes. I'm paying in that 6.2%. I get a W-2. I'm a 1099 contract worker. I have self-employment earnings. So that's what we're talking about here, not investment income. The way that they withhold your benefits matter, because a lot of people say, well, I don't care if they withhold $1 for every $2 above, so they reduce my check a little bit. But that's not really how it works. So let's say your friend Joanne, she's a realtor and she's tired of working off a commission. So she's turning age 62 and she's willing to take her reduced benefit check of $2,000. She just wants a stable monthly check for once in her life. Well, she's going to go and work in an office and she's planning on making $45,000. She doesn't think that's very much. 45,000 is over the earnings limit by 22,680. What are they going to do? They are going to withhold $1 for every $2 above that limit. So how much are they withholding? $11,340. The way they're going to withhold is they are going to divide by the amount of your monthly check, and they will withhold the entire check. They don't pay it to you at all. So Joanne, who was looking for a stable monthly check, won't get a check until July. We're going to talk about survivor benefits, spousal benefits. This applies to everything. If you are still working and you're taking a Social Security benefit, you will have to estimate your earnings and they will withhold. If you make $200,000 a year, they won't pay you a check all year. They will withhold your entire check. So something to be aware of. Changes a lot of people's claiming decisions. So now we're going to talk about spousal benefits. Spousal benefits exist because back in the day, there was a lot of people that were stay at home. It was stereotypically stay at home housewife. And the government said they work just as hard as their spouses. They should get a retirement benefit too. Let's base their benefit on the working spouse's record of paying into the system. So today we know a lot has evolved and we typically see both spouses working and paying into the system. So both people are eligible for a Social Security benefit. So the way we want to think about spousal benefits today is we're going to look at the higher earning spouse. So what is their benefit amount at their full retirement age? So we discussed earlier your primary insurance amount. So what is my spouse's primary insurance amount? We're going to cut that in half and say, what's half of that amount? Then we're going to look at our own earnings record and say, what's my primary insurance amount? If mine is higher than half of spouses, I don't qualify for a spousal benefit. But if mine is lower, you, instead of having just your own retirement benefit, you will get the higher check amount, half of your spouse's primary insurance amount. You only have to be married a year to get this. You do have to be 62 years old because this is a retirement benefit. Now, if you're 62 years old and you decide you're going to turn that spouse benefit on, you're not going to get half of your spouse's amount. You're locking in a permanent reduction. So everything that we talked about, all these rules come together. If you take early and you are not full retirement age, you will have a reduction. Now, this is one of the most recent rule changes with Social Security. It happened in 2015 under the Obama administration. They said, you know what? There's a lot of fancy claiming strategies when it comes to spousal. You used to have a lot of options that you could do fancy things and switch between, your spousal benefit and your own benefit to really maximize. And the government decided, hey, this is benefiting high net worth households. Let's close these loopholes and say, in order to get a spousal benefit, the higher earning spouse has to have filed for their retirement benefits. Otherwise, you can't turn it on. So if you're thinking of one of your friends, oh, well, my friend said I could do all this fancy stuff and file and suspend, filing a restricted application. You had to be born before 1954 to do any of those fancy claiming strategies. So sorry about that. The rules are a little bit more simplified. So I'm going to walk through an example because it's a lot easier when you have an example to understand what I just said. So your friends, William and Kate, they both are turning age 62 next month. Their full retirement age is 67. So when we look at their benefit amounts, if William waited until 67 to claim, he's going to get $2,000. Now, Kate, if she waits until 67 to claim, she gets $500. So when you look at this, you say, ooh, Kate qualifies for a spousal benefit because the spousal benefit would be 1,000. Now, let's say Kate's benefit amount was 1,500. She would not qualify for a spousal benefit because her benefit is higher. She would be claiming her own retirement benefit. End of story. But in this case, she only worked part-time at the school. $500 is her benefit. So William, he decides to take early. He's going to take at 62, lock in that lower amount of $1,400. That does not affect Kate's claiming decisions. She can decide, I'm going to take at 62 also. But if she takes at 62, she's locking in a lower amount of $650. Now, if Kate decides to wait until 67 to claim, she will get the full 1,000. But you will notice for spousal benefits don't grow after full retirement age. So if Kate waited until 70, she's still getting $1,000. So it doesn't make sense to claim after your full retirement age if you are getting spousal benefits. But let's flip the story now and say William decides, I'm waiting until age 70 because I want to lock in that higher benefit amount closer to $2,500. Well, we know Kate can't get a spousal benefit now because William has to turn his on and they're the same age. So, Kate, what's her option? She has a $500 benefit of her own. She can turn that on if she wants. If she turns that $500 on at 62, she's locking in a permanent reduction. The only way not to lock in a permanent reduction that will stay with Kate for her lifetime is to wait until age 67. She can turn on the $500 benefit based on her own work record while she waits for William to turn age 70. Once William turns 70, he turns on his benefit. Hers will step up to the higher $1,000. So a lot of people leave money on the table that they're waiting for the higher earner to turn on their benefits. And they could be collecting $500 starting at age 67. But I do want to caution you. A lot of people say, well, if I'm just going to get half of my spouse's, I'm just going to take at age 62 because I'm going to get half. That's not the way it works. You will be locking in a permanent reduction and you will get less than half. The other confusing point that a lot of people get tripped up in is people think, well, William waited until 70 and his benefit amount is $2,480. So Kate, she should get more than 1,000. She's going to get 1,240, correct? No, they always base your spousal benefits on the primary insurance amount, William's amount at his full retirement age. I know this stuff is confusing, but hopefully that clears it up a little bit. So why would William wait until age 70? Typically, it's because of survivor benefits. We hope that everybody lives a really long life. We're into our 90s, we're well into our hundreds. But at the end of the day, you get to keep one Social Security benefit. You don't get your own benefit and a survivor benefit. You get to keep one, the higher of the two. So for William and Kate, Kate's spousal benefit would drop off if William died first, and she would keep the higher benefit that will continue with her for life. So to qualify for a survivor benefit, The person that passed away, as long as they paid into the system for 10 years, they had their 40 credits, and you were married to them for 9 months, there is a survivor benefit there. But if you have no dependent children of the person that passed away that you're taking care of, so typical situation, no dependent children, you have to be age 60 in order to turn on the survivor benefit. So once you're age 60, you are eligible to turn it on. If you got remarried prior to age 60, you've lost your qualification to get a survivor benefit. I have a lot of people that, hey, they lose a spouse pretty young, and then they're 59 and a half years old and they get married. If they got married after age 60, they could still claim the survivor benefit and be married. So just something to think about. If you take your survivor benefit early and you are not full retirement age, there will be a reduction. So you can see at age 60, if your full retirement age is 67, you get to keep 71.5% of your survivor benefit. Once you are full retirement age, you get to keep the full 100%. So this works similarly to everything else we talked about. It's unfortunate because a lot of people, you lose a spouse and you're looking for income replacement. Okay, I lost their income. What do I do? And furthermore, what makes this tricky is a lot of people, like my uncle passed away very early at age 58. He had cardiac arrest, just very unexpected. And he was still working full time. And my aunt was like, oh, geez, I need income replacement. But my aunt was still young too, and she had employment earnings. Earlier, we talked about the earnings test. It applies for survivor benefits too. Hey, I want to turn on at age 60 my survivor benefit, but I have $100,000 in employment earnings. They will reduce your survivor benefits. So it's something in these situations, this is where your financial advisor can really help. What they're going to do is they're going to help map it out. How are we going to get you your income? Should you consider reducing your employment earnings so you can get the survivor benefits? It does get complicated. That's what they're there to help with. So in the case of my uncle, I said he passed away at 58. And people say, well, how does that work? If you die at 58, what's the survivor benefit? Because you didn't ever turn your benefit on. They look at his full retirement age would have been 67. They look at 100% of his primary insurance amount, his age 67 benefit amount, that will be the survivor benefit. But let's say he had lived a much longer life. He was he was 69 years old when he passed away. Well, we talked earlier about the 8% a year in delayed credits that you get after you turn full retirement age. Well, that gets locked in as the survivor benefit. You are locked in with that higher amount for the survivor. Now, let's say in the case of William, I'm turning my benefit on at 62. Well, what they do if you take early benefits prior to you turning full retirement age, 82.5% of your primary insurance amount is the survivor benefit. But of course, there's always those situations where they take early, but just a little bit early. Maybe they take at like 65 and their amount is actually larger than 82.5%. Of course, you're going to lock in that larger amount. The last thing to really know about survivor benefits, because unfortunately this comes up way too often, and you might find yourself in this situation one day. If in the case of my aunt, she lost her husband, she has her own earnings record, and she has this survivor benefit now. You sit down with your financial advisor and you look at the numbers. All right, maybe you just need income. Hey, I'm no longer working. I just need to turn on a benefit today, whatever's the highest. That's the worst option for optimizing, but sometimes that's what we have to do. Well, option number 2, let's look at the survivor benefit when I turn full retirement age, when there's no reduction. And what you can do is you can take your retirement benefit reduced at age 62 and then switch over to the survivor benefit at your full retirement age, which will, your survivor benefit won't be reduced. You get to keep that full amount. Option number 3, this was the case of my aunt. Her and her husband had pretty similar earnings records. So in that case, she could claim the survivor benefit at age 60. Of course, it's going to be reduced because she's taking it early. But the end game is she's going to let her own benefit grow up until age 70. And at age 70, she's going to flip over to the higher benefit that will remain with her for the rest of her life. In order to do this, she had to lower her employment earnings. Hey, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to work part-time, stay under that $22,000 limit, and I'm going to watch the grandchildren a couple times a week. So lots of options here if you have your own retirement benefit and a survivor benefit. Now, you might be wondering, what if I'm divorced? How does this all work? Everything that we just talked about, the spousal benefit, the survivor benefit, you may qualify for that on your ex's work record if you were married for 10 years. As long as you hit that 10 years of marriage and you did not get remarried, you are 62 years old or older in the case of a spousal benefit. When it comes, let's say your ex was a very high earner and you look at half of their benefit amount and it's higher than your own, your ex does not have to have filed. As long as you were divorced for a full 2 years, you are able to get the spousal benefit without your ex filing. They will never know that you filed on their record. You will have to prove to the Social Security Administration that you were married, a divorce decree, marriage certificate, but you can turn that on. You don't have to worry about it. If your ex has passed away, and let's say your ex got remarried and you know, hey, the new spouse is claiming a survivor benefit. That doesn't matter. You can claim the survivor benefit too. Everything that we just talked about, the switching scenarios when it comes to survivor benefits, you can do that on an ex-spouse that you were married to for 10 years, as long as you are not remarried. A lot of people leave money on the table when it comes to divorce scenarios. So make sure to talk to your financial advisor about prior marriages. When they're asking you questions, give them all the information. It's a reason why they're asking. Then also, this isn't as common, but if you are somebody that gets a government pension, so let's say you're a police officer, a teacher, a government worker, and you look on your record for Social Security, you'll look and you'll see zeros for tax Social Security earnings. And then wait, there's numbers in there for Medicare. This is a red flag that you are going to be subject to 2 different provisions, one called the government pension offset and the other one called the windfall elimination provision. So government pension offset, we just talked about the survivor benefits, the spousal benefits. Well, they are going to reduce your benefit by 2/3 of your monthly pension amount. So my husband, he's a police officer, so he's subject to this. If I die first, when you look at his monthly pension amount, you take 2/3 of that, that will wipe out the entire survivor benefit. He will get nothing. So this is something you want to talk to your financial advisor if you are subject to this, if you are somebody that has not paid into Social Security because you have a large pension and you don't have to. You want to talk to your financial advisor because what they'll do is they'll look at, okay, is that income that you need to live? If it is, maybe you need some life insurance to replace that income. So there's conversations to be had there. And then you might wonder, well, hold on for a minute, Julia. Your husband, he was a police officer most of his career, but then he paid into the system for 10 years. He worked for 10 years at Kmart. So he should qualify for a Social Security benefit. And the answer is yes. But what they're going to do is they are going to reduce your Social Security benefit because of your pension. Unless you've worked and paid in for 30 years or more at substantial levels, they consider a substantial level a little bit more than 31,000, they will reduce your monthly benefits. So earlier we talked about the income replacement bend points. That's what they're doing. If you worked 20 years or less paying into the system, you will only get paid 40% instead of 90%. The most that they can reduce your benefits by is $587 or no more than 50% of your monthly pension amount. So if you were somebody in the military, you don't have to worry about that. That military pensions are exempt from these rules. So one other surprise is some people turn their Social Security benefits on and are shocked that it is throwing taxable income on your tax return. For many of us, you're married filing jointly and you have over 44,000 in what they call provisional income. That's your adjusted gross income plus your muni bonds plus half of your Social Security benefit. Up to 85% of your Social Security benefits are subject to tax. This is something that could inflate your Medicare premiums when you turn it on, something to talk to your financial advisor about. Now, there's no right or wrong answers here. I know I said that before. You're going to want to tell your financial advisors your goals for this money. What do you want to use this money for? If you don't turn it on at your full retirement age, are you not going to go on those trips that you've been planning, your bucket list trips? Because if you fear that you're going to be sick and not healthy at age 70 and you're not going to go on your bucket list trips until you turn on Social Security, that could be a reason to turn on your benefits. But if your goal is, I want to optimize, I want to get the most out of the system I paid in, and I want to get the most out, maximize it. That is a lot of people's goals. That's what your financial advisor is really good at. But we want to give them all the context so they can help you make a good scenario, to make really good decisions here. If you're somebody that already took Social Security benefits, you can reverse, and it might not be, I shouldn't call it a mistake. Some people, let's say you turned on your benefits and a year has passed, and then you go stir crazy and you say, I don't like retirement. I want to go back to work. So you go back to work and now you have employment earnings. You don't need the check anymore. Once you turn full retirement age, you can suspend the check and get a couple more years of that 8% growth, turn it back on at age 70. But in the case of having less than a year of benefits, so my father-in-law, he got laid off unexpectedly. And he said, I'm too old. I'm just going to retire, turn on Social Security. And then 3 months later, they called him back. Oh, sorry. We regret laying you off. We want to hire you back. He was able to pay back those 3 months of Social Security checks, get a full redo as if he never claims at all. So these are options to everybody. I encourage you, go to ssa.gov. They don't really send you paper statements anymore. It's rare. You're not getting them as often as you used to. So if you go to ssa.gov, click on My Social Security, you can create an account. They have calculators on there. So if you're somebody that is going to retire next year and you want to zero out your earnings moving forward, keep in mind the estimates that they're giving you. They are expecting the dollars you made last year, let's say you made $100,000, that you will continue to make that up until your full retirement age. So on their front page, when you go on ssa.gov and you create your record and you pull it up, you can say, zero out my earnings going forward to see how it adjusts your monthly benefits, because that's the number we want to give to our financial advisor. Now, review all your earnings on there. Share your statement with your financial advisor. Talk about your goals. Work with them to optimize your unique scenario, because this is the base of your retirement income strategy that they will build on top of. So I know that was a ton of information. You can get these